Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Cody here, coming at you with another ranking video. Today we're going to be looking at the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. This video actually comes at the request of Katie, who DM'd me on Instagram a few days ago asking to do this league because her and her dad really like to watch, and I really appreciate the support there. Katie has a really awesome channel on YouTube where she talks about lifestyle, travel, mental and physical health videos. She has a lot of videos talking about travel while sleeping in her car, which is actually something I've done a few times in my life. I've taken different road trips. I've gone from Seattle to visit family in Arkansas. I've gone from Arkansas all the way up to Canada and back, taking different road trips, all baseball related. It's a fantastic channel. I'll go ahead and link it down in the description. Definitely consider subscribing and checking it out. Appreciate you, Katie. Hope you and your dad both enjoy this video. The Atlantic League is actually really cool. One of the most preeminent kind of high caliber talent for these independent baseball leagues that we've been talking about here on this channel. In fact, according to their website, it says that more than 40% of Atlantic League players actually have Major League service. It says over 40 former Atlantic League players and coaches are managers or coaches in Major League organizations. So an awful lot of talent that has come through here and continues to play in this pretty incredible league. So it's really surprising me I haven't gotten to this one by now. So glad I got to do it today. There's also been a ton of changes in this league over the years. So much so that of the 10 teams in this league, only 6 of them have been around since 2019. So it's over half. Pretty wild, actually. In 2020, when there was a massive kind of overhaul with minor league baseball, 2 teams from the Atlantic League went on to play in minor league baseball. That was the Sugar Land Skeeters, who are actually now the Sugar Land Space Cowboys, an affiliate, the AAA affiliate for the Houston Astros, and the Somerset Patriots also went off from the Atlantic League to be the AA affiliate for the Yankees. So there's 2 teams I hate more than any other team in baseball. That's Houston and New York, and they're getting 2 teams from the Atlantic League. But during that same year, 2 teams that were previously in minor league baseball lost their affiliation and joined the Atlantic League. That was the Lexington Legends and the West Virginia Power, who the next year in 2021 rebranded as the Charleston Dirty Birds, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. Also during that year of 2021, a new team was created with the Gastonia Honey Hunters, which we'll explore here in a little bit too, which along with Gastonia and the Kentucky Wild Health Genomes brings us to an even 10 teams in this league, but it is actively expanding. Starting play in 2023, there will be a new team in Hagerstown, Maryland, which just lost their affiliation with minor league baseball from the Hagerstown Suns. The city of Hagerstown will see a new ballpark and a new team playing in the Atlantic League along with another team. So good things going for the Atlantic League, even with all the changes. The future is bright with this league, and I'm excited to kind of see some of what's to come. Let's go ahead and get right into it today. As mentioned, there are 10 teams in this league. As always, I go from what I consider the worst to the first, which today is going to start us off with the Lancaster Barnstormers. Now again, I've said this before on this channel, so it almost feels like a cliche at this point, but if I'm considering this to be the worst, we're in for a treat because this is really nice overall, and there's not a whole lot of negative I can say about it. I don't think the term Barnstormer literally includes a barn. In fact, if you Google the actual definition, it'll tell you that a barnstormer refers to like airplane stunt pilots from like the 1920s. That to me is so much more interesting than an actual barn. I don't think that they're using the term barnstormer correctly here. You know, we just see Lancaster with a barn in the background and barnstormers across the bottom, so it's not very interesting or exciting. So it's really not bad overall. You have this baseball in the foreground that kind of starts like behind the barn. If you look at it, it's like it's kind of speeding its way with this layered starting from behind going up front with the words Lancaster kind of textured and layered in there too. And it looks really nice overall. It's not very exciting compared to some of these other logos that we'll see. And I think there's cooler things they could have done, like aviation wise, when you're talking about like the actual definition of barnstormer. So it's good. It is really good overall, but it's just, to me, not as exciting as it could be with a name like Barnstormer. Next up, we've got the Lexington Legends. This is one of those teams that I mentioned that lost its affiliation during the 2020 rebrand, so pour one out for Lexington. I'm glad that this team still can exist and find a home in such a great league. That said, let's talk about the logo here. It is very good overall. I'm not trying to throw this under the bus. You kind of have this home plate design in the background with like the rolling hills and some fences of Kentucky. Kind of makes me think of like, you know, like a horse pasture, which Lexington is very well known for. And the guy himself is kind of cool looking. He's got a big old cleft chin and like a kind of like a sideways sort of like, I'm gonna get you. I don't know what that expression is. The bat's in his hand, crisscrossing behind him is a super cool touch. super into that. And he's kind of got this old-timey uniform on where, you know, it's kind of got like this like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons where he's got like these droopy sleeves. But I will say his uniform just kind of blurs into the background. So it's kind of the same color that's above those hills and where the fences are. And so he just kind of bleeds into his background. He doesn't really stand out. I love the colors on here with the green and the blue and that cream. All look super, super nice. I guess overall, I'm just not super into his expression. It's kind of going for like a tough approach, but it doesn't really hit the mark for me. I think Lexington, I think horses, you know, we could do something with like, maybe like some bourbon in there. There's some things that Kentucky's a little bit known for. I don't really know where this name Legends comes from. Like, is this guy supposed to be the legend? Who knows? But objectively, it's very well designed. Next up, we've got the York Revolution. I think what's kind of struggling here is just the amount of detail that's going on. There's a lot of little pieces and things to it, like the O's in Revolution are supposed to be the tops of screws. There's kind of a rivet thing going on with the R in Revolution. I'm not quite sure what that is. There's a lot of kind of mechanical pieces here. They look pretty cool, but it's just kind of becomes a little clunky after a while. And while the whole thing looks cool as like one sort of elemental piece, I find those little details a bit distracting. I don't know what the name Revolution means and how it's supposed to pertain to this bird who actually kind of looks like he's standing on like a mountain. See that gray above where the word York is? Kind of looks like a mountain to me. And so I don't get it. There's this cool eagle, but there's this sort of mechanical vibe going on with some of these pieces, some of this industrial sort of stuff. I don't get it. I think that there's just not a great cohesiveness to this, even though like with the Lexington Legends, objectively, it looks great and it's well designed. There's too many kind of elements and things that like, I'm just not sure how to bridge the gap between those pieces. And so it's not really my favorite because of that. Next up, we've got the Kentucky Wild Health Genomes. Now this is really cool for so many reasons. It's very simple, but there's a lot of neat pieces here. First of all, just starting with the colors, this reminds me of like the Miami Heat. Kind of has this like Miami Vice thing going on with the pink and the blue and the black. That's an awesome color combination I don't see very much, so I'm really into that. And also, you know, we see this kind of blue baseball piece and it's using, I guess that's like strands of DNA as like the baseball stitching, which is a really sweet touch. And so it's simple, but there's like really cool pieces here, so I'm into that. I guess actually just to give a little context to this too, because I had to look it up because you won't find a link for the Wild Health on the Atlantic League website, which is a little weird. And I had to do like a lot of searching to kind of figure out what was going on here. So basically this is the newest team in the Atlantic League. It shares a park with the Lexington Legends. They play at Wild Health Field, which is kind of aptly named. So Wild Health is like the big health provider in the Lexington area. To be honest, I don't know if it's just limited to Lexington or it's kind of Kentucky as a whole, but that's the corporate sponsor for the field that they play in. And so that's the name of this team too. They're the Wild Health Genomes of Lexington, Kentucky. So it's a very creative, cool name no one else has in all of professional sports to my knowledge, so it's very, very cool and unique in that regard, and I love the colors here. I'm not crazy about though just kind of like the shameless corporate sponsor putting on here. You know, I never really liked that when you're having professional team names named after like a company instead of a city or a state or a region. I can't imagine for like the residents of Lexington, Kentucky to identify with Wild Health versus the city of Lexington. So I would imagine most of them are probably Legends fans as opposed to Genomes fans. You know, I'm wearing a Big Fork Vikings shirt. Shout out to Big Fork, Montana. Imagine wearing clothing representing like a corporation as opposed to a city. You know, and I'm not going to get on a pedestal here and talk about like the broken healthcare system in the US as much as I would like to. I'm not crazy about seeing like healthcare providers and hospitals be like an official sponsorship. To me, those services should be free. Again, I'm not trying to make this a political thing here. I just don't like the name for this team at all. It's kind of shameless. But that said, the team name is really cool and the colors are awesome, and this is simple but pretty cool. Let me get off my pedestal now for a minute here and bring up our next team. Got the Staten Island Fairy Hawks. This logo is super, super cool, but I feel it has like just a little bit too much going on. There is a really nice symmetry here with the name Fairy Hawks and Staten Island over top, so that text looks really nice. And he's kind of punching down the water, and so the whole thing kind of fits in this almost like a diamond shape, and it looks really nice in that regard. He looks really tough and cool, just a hawk. But I feel like that bridge and that ferry are kind of getting equal attention to the hawk. I feel like there could have been a cooler connection with the hawk and the ferry and the bridge. I feel like they could have just been pieced together a little bit instead of having like the hawk getting like some of the attention and then the text up top getting like an equal amount of attention, and then kind of getting that ferry and the bridge sort of fighting for attention too. There's just too much that you're trying to look at once. They have a really cool logo package with all these other logos that they've designed. I will say 2 of them look exactly the same. You've got on one, he's sort of punching down the water, this primary that we're looking at, and the other one he's sort of flying through. And I'll be honest, I think I like that one a little bit better because of the way that the bridge and the ferry are kind of tucked neatly under where his wings are. I feel like there's just a little bit more cohesion rather than the one where he's punching and you've got like this splashback from the water, and that splashback and the hawk himself are sort of blocking the ferry and the bridge. I really like this package as a whole, especially the one where he's hitting a ball like at that ferry with like the Statue of Liberty in the background. It looks like he's about to sink it. Okay, and on a very similar vein, we've got the Gastonia honey hunters. I'm gonna start out by saying a honey hunter is a honey badger, if that wasn't clear from the get-go. And so it's a really cool, interesting name. I love the alliteration with honey hunters. 2-syllable words that both start with H. It just flows off the tongue so nicely. And I love the honey hunter / honey badger head with the like flame in the background. It's honey, but it looks like a flame, and it just looks so sick. He's like super tough, and I love him. They also have an incredible logo package here, where all these pieces look super, super cool. It's kind of similar to what we just talked about with the Fairy Hawks. But the only thing that's really bringing me down for this is they just took 2 of these pieces. So they took the text and the head, and they just made that into one primary logo. And I mentioned this before, but I have a really big issue with logos that just decide to have like a mascot piece up here with like logo text along the bottom. It feels like there's 2 different things that we're looking at here. We've got the head and the text, and so they kind of compete in that regard. I appreciate logos more that are one cohesive piece, which we'll see coming up here. I don't know why we're still designing logos this way. This is a brand new team, and yet here we are still designing logos with this top part, bottom part sort of design to it, and I'm not a fan. I want to love this so much more, but I have to bring it down for that fact. All right, and now we've got the Long Island Ducks. I love this logo. That duck head in that D has so much personality. He looks so mischievous. He looks cartoony and fun, but he also looks tough. It's very rare to kind of hit all of those different adjectives. I like this actually better than the Anaheim Ducks, which I believe is the only like major professional sport team to have the name Duck. The rest of the lettering there, the UCKS, has this classic sort of wraparound baseball font, and I love that. And the D for the duck actually looks a lot like the Texas Dingers that I just did a video for. So the way his bill kind of wraps around like that, has this curve to it, sort of has this loop like a cursive D would have, and it's really cool. The one thing that's bringing me down for me though is the word Long Island is just kind of like tucked in there, almost like an afterthought. So it looks like the Ducks font is in italics where Long Island is not, and so it doesn't really match the rest of the font. And I can't say I'm crazy about that, which is too bad because I love everything else about it. At number 3, we've got the High Point Rockers. This logo is super fun, if not like a little chaotic, but it doesn't feel cluttered chaotic. It just has so many colors that are very like neon and shiny. It kind of has this old sort of like 50s diner kind of neon sign vibe to it. I love the rocking chair with baseball bats and like baseballs for like the handles. And it's just kind of like taking off into the night sky. That's just super funny to me. Kind of cements the point home where in the second H in the word high, you've got this arrow pointing up. So it's like the whole thing is just kind of taking off, and it's very fun to look at. The name is great too because apparently High Point is like a huge like furniture and textile manufacturing city. I love that utilization of kind of what you're known for with this logo. It's just super fun overall. I was really trying to like pinpoint what this reminded me of, and I couldn't really think of it until I remembered in the movie Rockadoodle. If you remember that movie, go ahead and leave a like on this just for that fact alone. This movie feels like an absolute fever dream to me, and this logo unlocked that memory for me, so thank you. But also, man, that movie was an absolute trip. I don't know why it was one of my favorites as a kid. At number 2, I've got the Charleston Dirty Birds, formerly the West Virginia Power. We've seen teams on this channel. I know it's a very common thing for team names to be the miners. I feel that that's what this is a miner. You know, it's a bird. He's got his like pack on, he's got his helmet lamp on, and he's ready to just go down in the tunnel. In fact, this is a really sweet connection with the idea behind canary in the tunnel or canary in a mine, which is this idea that, you know, you bring down a canary as a miner into a tunnel to see if it starts getting sick, that means that there's like a gas leak. So it was kind of this idea of like you would bring a canary down with you to kind of protect yourself from like other gas or different leaks down in the mine. So kind of morbid in that regard, but instead of calling themselves canaries, they went with the dirty birds, which is kind of a cool spin on, instead of just being a canary, which is what this is, it's a mining canary. So it's a dirty bird. I don't know. I love it. I love the colors too. Everything about this is super cool and it's really fun. I actually thought this was going to be my #1 pick until I spent more time looking at this, and I decided I couldn't not go with the Southern Maryland blue crabs. Take a look at this beauty. Perfectly symmetrical, bold, in-your-face colors, a really tough, intimidating looking mascot creature, really nice looking font and text. This is so nice and super badass, honestly. There's no other way to put it. It is a little text heavy with the name like Southern Maryland, but they managed to incorporate that really well with like the B in blue and the S in crabs sandwiched in there nicely, and that font matches the font for blue crabs, which is what we didn't see in Long Island ducks. But this is just awesome and well done through and through, especially the intimidation toughness factor with the blue crab. Very, very well done. This is well deserving of #1 pick, but honestly, all of the logos in this video, or in this league, could make a case. They're all pretty sweet. Well guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. Again, go subscribe to Katie's YouTube channel. Thank you again for that recommendation. This was a really fun league to look at and explore and talk about, so I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and consider liking, commenting down below, tell me which one was your favorite or which leagues you'd like to see in the future on this channel. And go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I love making this content for you guys. It's very fun for me and it's great to highlight some of these leagues. So if you liked this, if you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit a like, give me a subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much, guys.